The following episode contains or may contain spoilers. So if you're spoiler sensitive, maybe beware.
Yeah, you sensitive people.
Get out.
Oh, get in.
Happened to you? Are you okay?
It's because the coffee is nearly finished.
Yeah, you're
should obviously
not
be
drinking
chugging
enough.
that.
Come on,
It's
come on.
wide.
Do
Like
it. Yeah, but you're not trying hard enough.
There's a lot there.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Phantom Zone. 3 fans, 1 podcast, and
The
a
Sea of Comics.
mix. Look at you. Y'all keep interrupting.
What are you talking about?
So today, Spider-Man Far From Home review.
Yay!
Did everybody see it?
Yes.
I didn't.
This is hard to do.
I saw it last night, so it's all fresh.
Did you just see it?
I
really?
did just see it.
We
yeah.
saw it the day it came out, I think, right?
No, the day after, I think.
I actually had to put the comment that you on our page were like, all right, it's spoiler free or spoiler time. Everyone post your thoughts. And I'm like, I have to mute this. I have to leave the group. What do I do?
And it was like, I think a minute, or actually when I posted it, you were texting me that like, oh, I'm seeing it tonight at 9. I was like, oops. Don't look at our Facebook group. Yeah, so today, okay, before we get into this, I did want to make a little announcement. So, one of our lovely listeners, which decided to stay anonymous, which I guess is cool. I want to thank you, but whatever.
Sounds mysterious.
Nominated us for the podcast awards, for the People Choice Awards. So we're in the category for entertainment.
Nice.
So if you like us and you're listening to this, go and vote for us and like cast your vote.
Someone did that
We
for
got
us?
nominated.
Yeah.
Guys, I just want to say it is an honor to just be nominated. And if we don't win, we're not going to take it well.
We're going to stop the podcast.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, this is what we were doing it for.
Yeah.
No, but
Validation!
this person was super sweet, and they said they decided to stay anonymous because we are the ones that did something they really liked, and they didn't want to take any credit for something that we're doing. And I'm like,
that's so
But
sweet.
I want to thank them,
I
though.
know, well, we can thank him now.
Thank
So thank
you.
you, mysterious person.
From the bottom of how apropos that you're so mysterious.
I know, right?
In Italian, that's called it Mysterio.
Yeah, so if you go to podcastawards.com, we'll also make a post about it, and you can just follow the link on there. You'll find us in the entertainment category.
Oh my god,
Also-
oh my god.
I want to add this after we win.
Oh my
And this time and the next, we'll probably 2-3 nominations. Or you should say who you are after that. If we win, come forward, and we'll
Claim your prize.
We'll give you a t-shirt.
Yeah, you'll get a T-shirt, and you send us a picture. I'll superimpose myself in that picture. It'll be very fun.
Our arms around the person that edited.
Yes. Okay, so that was a short little announcement that I wanted to make.
Cool.
Aw.
Yeah, Kayla didn't know about it.
I know. Thanks for the secret, bud.
Just before we started, Kayla was like, "I never won nothing. I never won nothing." And so, good.
So into the Spider-Man review. It's just what people clicked on this episode for. Okay. So this is the second Spider-Man movie in this. Do you count Civil War? I don't think we can count Civil War, right?
I mean, that's not a Spider-Man movie.
yeah.
well, he's introduced, but
It's called Captain America Civil War. It's not
I
Spider-Man
see what
Civil
you're
War.
saying. No, I think that's true.
Well, he's
we
also in
can't count
Infinity
him,
Wars and Endgame. So.
Yeah.
good point. Touche.
He does have a very striking, very even predominant role in a sense, especially for
most of those, too.
for Civil War. Well, especially for Civil War, even if it's not like he's the main character of that movie. For a couple of scenes, like him being introduced is like the most important thing going on. and
Yeah,
everything
yeah.
like that. Yeah.
Well, Infinity War, he had some really good parts.
Oh,
and
for sure.
I think it's just his connection with Tony that really puts him front and center.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so this is the second Spider-Man movie. General impressions?
It really disappoints me how they just introduced maybe the best Spider-Man movie they've ever made without making a big deal out of it. I loved this movie. I loved it, and I really do feel that way. I think challenge it with the, I don't know, that's poorly phrased. It and Spider-Verse are very like neck and neck for me. I love both of those. And when I saw Spider-Verse, I was like, I don't think that they can do a Spider-Man movie that's live action that's as cool as this.
Or at least as enjoyable, I guess, all the way through.
Everything. And this came so close, if not right there. So, yeah.
I would definitely... Yeah, I mean, I can say... I mean, Spider-Verse is... I mean, if you don't think that movie is at least in your top 3, then...
You don't have taste.
Yeah, well, I was just going to say you don't like Spider-Man. Assault their whole taste, Kayla.
It's so visually interesting, Spider-Verse. I know we can't focus on it too much, but like, it's like even if you don't like the character and the stories, the music connection to the animation
it was just
so cool.
All around.
It's like Fantasia good when it comes to that kind of stuff. 2000
or original?
Original.
Okay.
I was unaware of
2000.
No, it's just it didn't have the same splash. Yeah. That's a water pun.
Okay, so I really enjoyed it too. I mean, throughout the whole movie, I thought it was an interesting and surprising direction they went in. I didn't know how they were going to top the first, like, Homecoming. I didn't know how they were going to top his appearances in Civil War or Infinity War or anything like that. And I thought they did a very good job of doing that, at least progressing this character in a certain direction, and ending this phase completely, which is, it didn't feel like an ending of the phase, but I guess it was just them dealing with it that made it the end.
I thought it was pretty good.
This is Kayla's not as into it. Okay, we'll get into that. This was, since you mentioned the ending, it was like kind of a denouement. You know, like it's like the climax is over and this is just a little bit of the fallout.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was really cool that they still kept it in this phase because you see the fallout, you see how people dealt with the snap. And
masterful.
Yes.
That is one of the, it begins with this, it's like very serious in its intent, but it's so through that lens of hokey high school production of Tony, like his memorial and everything like that. What a funny way to deal with that. And then the idea of the blip. So all these people come back and they're different ages. So my younger brother's my older brother now. It's really...
Yeah, which if you're listening to this, you've probably watched the movie already. If not, you're going to get spoilers. But they call the coming back of people from the snap the blip. And the funniest part of that was the marching band in... when
they just appear right in the middle of a
game, which is so funny.
It's fantastic. It's fantastic because that's really rare in comic stories generally, which is just to see the quasi-realistic fallout of these cosmic scale sort of things. Usually it's in disaster, and so I can see why they would want to avoid that a lot of times. But there's this funny little moment that they get to show you, which it's so smart.
What happened with people that were on a plane?
Well, a lot of people died.
Happened.
A lot of people died.
Because would they like blip back at the same exact spot in the sky that they?
Well, you've made it dark and awful, so thank you for that.
I'm only curious because once I saw that,
they died. Okay, no, they died.
Okay,
yeah.
No, but that is a really good point. I like how they showed because you do not see that a lot. You don't see normal people dealing with that kind of stuff.
I'm sorry, your example is just like, I'm alive! Shit!
Splat.
Yeah. Total terrible situations people could have been in. But yeah, so the fallout for it, and I think the reason why it was best that this was Spider-Man is because he's Spider-Man. He's literally a street level character. I mean, they've obviously brought him up a bit, but he's friendly neighborhood Spider-Man.
Yeah.
He has been to space. But he's a 16-year-old kid.
Yeah.
And still in school. So, which he should have graduated already if he didn't get snapped. But yeah. I thought it was really interesting. I really liked how they dealt with that.
Oh, wait a second.
Yeah, everybody aged 5 years. He stayed the same. So he would have already been graduated and...
I didn't think about, but they were still in his class.
Well, because they put the people with the same ages
together.
Okay, so all of his friends,
MJ, they got snapped.
Fantastic. Okay,
yeah, you can kind of just
depending on their age.
Well, the thing is, I didn't even think about it as an issue to be solved, and then you brought the issue to my attention and then solved it. So
that was the whole thing with their friend that was like
Older.
really younger, and then he got older, and then he's like setting his sights on MJ, and
that's
he's
right.
like, he was a kid.
Yeah.
That's gross.
Yeah. It's weird because I didn't think about that fact that like I thought it was like, oh, something happened to him, but it's like, no, so nothing happened to him.
Exactly.
Something happened to all of them. Okay,
Yeah. I thought so. One thing that I will say that I kind of liked and didn't want to like, because you get it from the trailer, is Happy and May. I actually kind of liked that pairing, and I only think it's because of this May.
Oh, they did such a good job on it.
Yeah.
Because, and I think you're absolutely right. I wouldn't have thought about that, but they just did such a good job developing it and organically that I'm just along for the ride. And there's nothing in the comics that says that those characters couldn't get together. It's, you don't.
Well,
sacrifice.
I mean, age.
Well, yeah, but yeah, that's a good point. But in terms of personality,
yeah,
there's no reason why once you put them together, like sure.
So I'm assuming both of them didn't snap.
Makes sense, yeah.
Because that's how they started dating, right?
And just generally, yeah, I think the idea of their relationship together. I also did. I don't know, actually, to be honest.
Okay, I don't think it really matters.
Yeah,
but
we'll do a whole podcast episode where we just try to figure out who did and who did not snap.
How old are you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought, but Spider-Man, I liked that he is 16, and this is one of the first Spider-Man movies where he's not in college, where he's not working at some big science laboratory or already working at the newspaper.
Yeah,
and
even
stuff
the
like
Bugle.
that.
He's got it.
I mean, hint, maybe soon. But I thought it was really cool because you still see him as a kid and you're growing with him as a kid. But Kayla mentioned a funny thing about since he is 16 and like what they're showing and like his relationship, as far as like with MJ and stuff like that, because it did have a huge focal point in this.
Oh, yeah. Well, if we want to start with what we didn't like.
Yeah, let's talk about that because, like, you're, I think, at least in the minority in the world or whatever.
Yeah.
So, what did you not like about it?
I felt like I'm just going to focus on what I didn't like because there was a lot that I did.
Yeah.
The parts that focused on the field trip with his friends, his relationship with MJ, all of that stuff just felt very high school. And it makes sense, right? Because he's in high school.
Yeah.
But it also lacked the emotional depth. I felt like
I see.
And I felt like a lot of the times on the trip, it felt really slow. Like right when something interesting would happen, it would cut back to them driving around a bus in the European countryside. And I'm like, it's fine.
At least you're consistent too, because you're very resistant to like staying in origin mode.
Yeah.
And stuff. So this does make sense. That like, yeah, give me Spider-Man that's a teacher now and has been divorced twice. And, receding hairline.
Not what I want.
No, I'm just fine.
But I felt like it's focusing on the teenage problems of a teenager isn't inherently bad, but I felt like I've seen it done better. Most recently, Shazam. They're all kids, but I felt more and mostly invested in anything that was happening in Billy's story and Freddy's story, and it still felt very young. But I just felt like it had more emotional intensity. I just cared more. And with this, it's just like, oh, look, he likes a girl.
I think that's what it is. And maybe if it was a different girl, but it's MJ and Peter, it's like we know like they're going to get together. Like we've seen this rodeo a few times and like it's nothing special. Like, I mean, the actors are fantastic. I think they're really great. And there's good moments, but it's like, yeah, we got this. I
really love Tom Holland as Spider-Man. I think he's adorable. It's like the word that just pops to the forefront of my mind. I find him so endearing.
Yeah.
So it's like, again, everything is right. It's just, I don't know what it was. I just felt like, again, anything focused on the field trip, his relationship with MJ, his friends, that weird... that they became a couple on the plane. I'm just like, they called each other babe 7 times.
That was
hilarious.
So awkward. I was like, ugh.
I thought it was funny too. It's just, it didn't do it for me. That just made it okay.
I don't disagree with any of that, really. I mean, I disagree, but not, it's just a matter of emphasis or something like that. So I agree in terms of pure high school drama or something like that. I don't think this was the best, but I think it was competent. And I think it did need to be in place. I think that you need... Spider-Man comics are usually he has a robust social life of some sort. So even if he's not in high school, he's like got drama in the Daily Bugle or in whatever science sort of capacity he's working in. So I thought that was super cool. I have to admit too, not only do I love him and believe Tom Holland is seriously in love with MJ. or at least in that early, like, very pursuing her once. But their relationship. Now, I know you guys liked the Andrew Garfield stuff.
Yeah.
So we'll part ways there. But the fact that...
So you're just wrong.
Well, fair enough. But as the people that felt like there was something lacking in those movies, it's here in full display, which is awkward high school hitting on each other.
Yeah.
I loved it so much.
I just feel
think
like...
that's like the best part about that.
Yeah.
But like all I'm saying is like I think to go back to maybe the origin, like staying in the origin thing or like done this and that, it's like it is another origin thing, and for it's in the second movie. Now, they're kids, so I understand that it takes time and like the whole like him trying to gain her affection or work up the courage to ask her. It's fine, but it's just one of those things where it's like that really wasn't my favorite part of the movie, and it did happen quite a bit.
Yeah.
There's definitely beautiful moments with them and the really good moments and moments that made sense, but it's just like, okay, I get it. Like, I get that you just want to be a kid, but you've been to space, you fought the Mad Titan. It's not going to happen, man.
We should talk about that a little bit, about how much do Peter's decisions make sense, because I think there are some questions there. But I kind of agree with you. I think that's a good way to sort of compromise this or whatever, is that I like that they handled it the way they did. In terms of total screen time, I think you're probably right that there's a lot of it to kind of basically suggest the same thing, which is that, hey, they love each other, but they're bad at dating.
Yeah, and I think what Caleb was saying with the emotional stakes and stuff, it's like, I think they did that to build that stakes and like to really get you invested in it. It's
will
like,
they, won't they? Oh my God.
It's like we're already invested in them. Like we want them together. I mean, almost everybody does. It's like you don't need to keep showing this.
Well, and also, I have to say,
give me more Mysterio.
For Rizzle.
I have to say, MJ too. I love that actress. Mm-hmm. I love how tall she is. No, I'm just she's very
she's
tall.
Taller
she's
than
very
him.
tall. Yeah, she's cool. But what they did with MJ's character in this, I'm very supportive of. I think it was really cool to make her. She has this
Vulture's
kind of
daughter.
What's that?
Vulture's daughter.
Yeah. Well, she's definitely brave and everything like that.
Yeah.
But I think MJ's always had that. I love that she figured out that probably Peter Parker is Spider-Man.
I like how you put probably.
Yeah. The way she,
because she wasn't sure.
Yeah,
she like did it very confidently, and then she was like, "Wait, no, you're actually."
I was only like 67% sure.
I love that she's the one that found Mysterio's illusion-y device, and because I think it's not just like, oh, women need to have more competent roles. It's sort of like, how do you put a supporting character in the story in ways that they're active and involved in it? And this, I was like, oh, that's how you do it. That's really good stuff.
And it goes with her. I mean, her inherent character comic book mythos of MJ of being very like investigative and being very involved in things and like kind of not holding back punches as far as like she saw something fall and she's like, I'm gonna fucking take this and figure out what the fuck this is like.
And, last thing I'll say on MJ that I thought, wow, they really did something kind of sophisticated here, is that the MJ Parker relationship has always been, okay, Peter lucked his way into dating this actress model. She's way out of his league. Lucky him, because everything else is going so badly. So how do you do that without making an objectified thing? Yeah. So MJ is way out of his league, but she's beautiful, of course, but not because she's this objectified thing.
She's not Kirsten Dunst.
Because she's got so much more wherewithal and maturity than he does. And it's so cool that's why she's out of his league.
That's a really good, I think I thought that, but I don't think I really like could form a sentence on like why I like that so much. So that's a really good point.
Yeah, super smart way to have done that and create value without sort of sexualizing it or something like that.
Yes, which is very nice. And they're kids too.
Yeah.
So if they went the opposite direction, it's like they're 16. Like, why are
That's disturbing.
You shouldn't be doing this at all. Yeah. So Mysterio.
Yes. What I liked about the movie.
Oh, it crushed so hard.
Yes, Jake.
My God.
Gyllenhaal definitely did not disappoint.
Yeah, let's just talk about that for a second. The acting. He didn't phone it in. I didn't think, which was, I was kind of worried because he's like, when you get these big stars and then they do something like this, a lot of times you're worried, like, okay, they're just going to be themselves.
Like they just
in
got
the
the star just to have the star.
But
on
he
there.
did everything he needed to do. When he needed to be charming, it was like,
Yeah.
oh, now look at that. Mysterio's good now, I guess.
Yeah.
Even though in the back of my mind, I'm like, I'm waiting for it. Where is it? And then the switch. He just became such a psychopath.
Yeah, I was
That
so
it was
happy
chilling.
about that.
There was like 3 different sort of personalities. The first one is we're the hero personality, like you mentioned.
Yeah.
The second one is the what do you call it, like Steve Allen, or what's the guy's name? The guy that from Apple that died, Steve Jobs, or whatever. Where he reveals
You
himself.
work for Apple.
I work at them. Where he reveals himself to the team, and they go around and like, we want to thank Janice for her work on it. Or whatever. And Janice is one of my favorite characters. And then the second turn. Mm-hmm. Where they kind of fail him a little bit, and he points the drone guns at their heads, and like, I will seriously kill you if this doesn't go well, which we know Steve Jobs would have done too. He's clearly a dangerous man. But anyway, I'm just
don't ever trust anybody in a turtleneck.
So it was cool that like Gyllenhaal was believably kind of all 3 characters.
Oh my God.
And that's what I really liked about it too, because I mean, if you know the character, or if you listen to our last episode on him, you'll know that he's a hypnotist, he's an illusionist, he's very fake on the surface, but he's very good at it.
Yeah.
And so there was moments in this movie, because they change things all the time with these characters. I was like, is he actually going to be good?
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of moments where I'm like, how is he gonna like reverse from this? How could you make this guy your villain for being so sweet to him?
I thought you guys at first, when you were like, oh, he could be good or it could be magic, we're being kind of gullible. But then like in the episode we talked about, there was this, oh, no, we're saying he could be bad, but he's good at first.
Yeah.
And that could have been plausible too. Or it could have been one of those things where it was all illusion, but he meant to be good. He was using it for a good reason. And then, Spider-Man foils or reveals, and then he's pissed.
Villain origin story.
So there's a lot of ways that they could have done the villain turn. To make it all bullshit and for a nefarious purpose, I was like, yeah, this is cool.
That was amazing. I just, some of the delivery of the lines, though, it's like, oh my God, you're going to make me kill Peter. How dare you guys make me kill him?
Yeah.
You kind of believe what he's saying, but the words are so creepy.
It's like he cares. He's more mad at the people and blaming them for an action he will ultimately do.
It's
but
one
throwing
of those,
away
abusive, like, how could you make me do this as he's murdering someone?
Yeah.
And I take him at his word to it that he wasn't trying to kill Peter Parker. I think he even liked Peter Parker.
Yeah.
But
Until
the idea
the end.
and I think the idea was like, well, if we have to do that, we're going to do it.
And there was the moment, because he does the illusions with the drones, which I kind of like and kind of didn't like.
Love it.
I thought it was so cool.
I thought it was cool and like it looked cool, but
It
was
makes sense for the scale that he was going for.
Yeah, but it was just more in that, like, I think the MCU has a lot of Iron Man stuff in
This
it.
is one of your complaints. I think it's valid.
I love Iron Man, and so it's just there's a lot of characters that have either gotten tech from Iron Man, makes sense, but those characters didn't originally have it. But so just to add more of it in there, I'm like, okay, like I get that this is an excuse on like how these illusions work instead of like him actually, you know what I mean?
I think it made sense with what they were trying to do with Tony and Peter's relationship in the first place.
Fantastic integration into the larger story arc, by the way, that because that was a big moment in I don't know which Iron Man it is. It's or remind me where
there's like 20 Iron Man movies.
I know. Where I might be Captain America Civil War, where he shows the parent solution.
That is Civil War.
It's Civil War.
That's
yeah.
Civil War.
We go
Edith.
all the way back. Yeah, exactly. We go all the way back to that. No, it's Barf.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Sorry. And he was super pissed off. But so, I mean,
he named it Barf.
It's so realistic to me and plausible of having this other sort of not an industrialist necessarily, but like genius inventor who got upstaged. I mean, how many people has Tony like upstaged and bought out and beaten? That was the plot of Iron Man 3 also. So I love that they integrated his origin into the storyline.
Well, it goes back to like you mentioned Steve Jobs. It's like, yeah, Steve Jobs isn't the only one that made this. It's like there's plenty of people and he has all the credit for it. So it's like there's bound to be some disgruntled employees like Janice and those other people.
God damn you, Janice. I hope Janice is secretly Mysterio. Like the sequel, it was Janice the whole
She
time.
does have the suit.
She does.
Can we talk about how creepy the illusions were?
Yes.
And how I couldn't tell what was real during the... I mean, I guess it was the first time he really, like, used it against Spider-Man. I was just like, I don't know what's happening. I don't know what's real.
my arm.
When is it over? Oh my god, it was so scary.
So good, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
it was terrifying.
You're absolutely right. And it's so good that the movie didn't pull any of those punches. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because up until then, we didn't know what was going to happen, but completely made you and Spider-Man doubt what was real and what wasn't.
The voiceover, too. Oh my god.
We found out that he does illusions.
Yeah.
And the way he did it from MJ, like we just talked about. So it's like, okay, like he has to set it up and like stuff like that. But when it happened, when he used it against Peter, it was so seamless that when you found out, like, oh, he's already in an illusion, I was just like, I am so confused.
It just never stopped. I was like, what is happening?
Let's underscore that point because I think that's very important, which is that we learn he has illusions, but they're pre-prescribed. They happened, and you're right. We don't know how on the fly and adaptive they are.
Well, once he got Edith and connected it to it, he can do it on the fly.
Yes. And that was it really was terrifying. I think I mentioned it went from it's going to be a smart villain kind of thing, but Spider-Man's going to figure it out to I don't know if Spider-Man can win.
He didn't like, and
it ends with him getting hit by a train, guys.
Which in and of itself was amazing. By the way,
everybody in the theater when that happened was like, ooh.
Oh my god!
They all got hit by a train.
But you're still like, was that real?
That's
very true.
They don't show it, but we assume he was, used his agility to kind of like brace at the last moment. Yeah. And he's a more durable.
He can heal.
Physical.
Like,
yeah.
I mean, he's fine.
Yeah.
He has like 9 lives. That's how Spider works.
But Marvel also has this tendency to get, when they have the opportunity, straight up psychedelic. They go right into the Dumbo's drunk.
Well, kind of Doctor Strange.
And that's what I was thinking, yeah.
I really like this movie because I was just like, it's so much like Doctor Strange stuff.
I just feel like while I was watching The Illusion and just how seamless they were, I was just like, any fan of Mysterio will love this so much. Because this is Mysterio at his best.
The first thing I said when I went out of the theater, I was like, I loved Mysterio. I was like, he was perfect.
Yeah.
I'm like, and I don't think anybody else could have played that the way Jake Gyllenhaal delivered it because of his, valiant nature, his loving heart, and then his just complete psychotic turn.
And from an acting standpoint, he can kind of do both at the same time, which is really cool.
Yeah.
Donnie Darko's from kind there on.
Scary.
Yeah, where he can kind of be happy but scary at the same time. Really, really good stuff. And him not being in the suit was an interesting change. This thing where he's actually, he's somewhere on the ground usually.
But those are illusions.
Yeah. And
I didn't like it at first, and like especially when he was like fixing that big illusion or like working with him to do it, and I was like, that's weird. He's not going to be in a suit, and like a suit's a hologram. But I was like, it kind of makes sense. It's the perfect escape route because he can make the hologram over there, but he's over here.
He's not putting himself in physical danger at all,
which was super smart.
And you're right. When he gets Edith, it ups his ability to kind of be in the midst of all that kind of stuff. But I think absolutely true that when I went into this, it was going to be a good movie regardless, or it could have been at least. But I was definitely worried, like, will people get why Mysterio is so potentially threatening? Because so many of Spider-Man's villains are like, they have his physicality and they
are physically more powerful.
And they throw grenades or they are in a rhino suit that allows them to rip tank vault doors off.
Yeah.
So you instantly can just imagine, okay, it's like, well, Mysterio just tricks you? Is that the idea? And to be here's
it's like, yes, that is the idea.
let me tell you what a disappointment this is in retrospect from a Thor fan, because Loki has these powers and even
like
more,
their actual powers.
And actually, I would say the doors should be even more off. And this is exactly how Loki's power should have manifest, which is illusion upon illusion. And I just love that the people that wrote this script had the imagination to just all 6 cylinders, not just it's fake me.
Yeah.
Once the Doctor Strange door was open to like this psychedelic, like really magic looking movies and like really playing with everything, I think they've just kind of leaned into it and they're finding good moments to do that kind of thing. Yeah. So I mean,
it also could be a budget thing.
Maybe.
These movies probably had a greater budget than the first
Yeah, that's
movies
true.
or whatever.
Yeah,
but-
I'm pretty sure.
Maybe Loki's show will have some cool tricks for you.
That's what I'm
If
really
it
hoping.
doesn't, I swear.
You know, and apart from the illusions, one thing I just want to say before we move on from the amazing Mysterio is
Never moving on.
is how cool the costume looked and how cool his magic was
Yes.
while he was performing it. I just loved looking at it, and that's part of the reason I was like, maybe I hope he's good.
Yeah.
And why I was disappointed that he was killed at the end? Question mark.
We don't know.
I know. I feel like they kind of left the door open, and with Mysterio, especially
I
after
hope
watching
so.
this movie, you're like, I have no idea if he's dead. Or
Yeah.
not. But I mean, I feel like it would be disappointing if they did kill him because I just liked watching him work.
Well, and it also will leave the door open for okay, so I have this big problem, and I've noticed with a lot of Marvel movies is they have these fantastic villains most of the time.
And then they
Malekith, no.
kill them at the
Some
end.
of the time.
Some of the time, but I mean, there's a lot of really good villains.
Yeah.
But they keep killing them off, and
Sure.
then we're running. I don't know if they're running into this problem, but then it runs the problem of like characters like Spider-Man, where they have a rogues gallery, they
Yeah.
have a Sinister Six, they have like villain teams where it's like, okay, so if you keep killing these villains
They're
off,
not going to be able to form a team.
or like you have such
Sure.
a big hit with Mysterio, and it's like, do you really want to be one and done with him? Like,
Yeah.
I mean,
Good
I
point.
think he could be really useful in the future.
Well, I feel like specifically in Tom Holland's Spider-Man movies, the villains are kind of the best part. I think Vulture and Mysterio were the best part of his movies.
What happened? What did Marvel what did they learn? Because it's such a dramatic change. Like they had this
Yeah.
problem of having some really
Okay
weak
villains, yeah.
And I want to even talk about that just for a second, which is it's always been the script. It's never been the actors of the concept.
Yeah.
They've just not done enough.
Yeah.
Like it's easy to forget. Christopher Eccleston, I think that's his name. The actor that played Malekith is a fantastic actor.
He's like a very well-known actor, and he's
Absolutely.
great.
He just didn't get to do shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, when he did deliver his lines, it's like, I believe you.
Well, and it's in Elvish, so it's so hard to tell at the time.
He can speak Elvish.
Yeah. And it's so sad for that guy because he learned Elvish, and then was
People
completely
were like-
Elvish method.
You're awful.
And then all the real elves were like, "That's not correct. You're pronouncing that wrong." But anyway, yeah. So point is, they've definitely learned their lesson because between Vulture and Thanos and just all these third phase villains.
even his Black Order was great.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
To the degree we were like, "Oh, where's that movie?
Yeah.
I want that movie."
I love Ebony Maw.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great.
You know, the fact that you bring it up that you hate when they kill villains, I think this is why I'm such a Batman fan, because it's like, as ridiculous as it is, he just puts them in Arkham, and you know they're going to escape. So it's just like, Poison Ivy got captured,
Yeah.
but she'll be back.
But that's the thing. That's what Spider-Man does too.
Yeah,
Like, Spider-Man does
You're right.
that. That's why I'm just like, why don't please stop killing these characters? Because especially,
I'm
I
just
want to
choosing
see.
to believe he's not dead.
I want
I
to see
have
the
to-
Vulture and Mysterio interact.
I think that they are well on their way if they keep this up with having a Sinister Six, because they've already introduced Scorpion. He hasn't
And Shocker.
been Scorpion yet, and Shocker. Hopefully, we'll get the goddamn Shocker suit.
And maybe Chameleon. I don't know.
Potentially. But all we need is 2 more good villains, and then we can have a Sinister Six. So if we get 2 more movies, because some of these ones, too, it's like, I'd love to have 6 more movies and have each one fleshed out. If Shocker and Scorpion don't end up getting their own movie, but we at least get a really cool visual representation and they have a decent story, I'm okay. But I'm just saying, they're not so far away.
So while we're on the thing of villains, who would you like to see as the next villain? But not Kraven. You can't pick Kraven.
Well, okay, let me pick him first with definite yes, him forever. And then, let me think about that.
Because my favorite was just done. I love Mysterio. He's like my favorite Spider-Man villain, and he's not really even in the comics. I just love him.
So
I think having a woman would be fun. So, like, Black Cat, Silver
cool.
Sable.
No, that'd be good.
I need we're going to have to figure out a Black Cat that's not a Catwoman ripoff.
Yeah.
She has.
And the most recent, I mean,
Yeah.
at least as far as what I've seen, I haven't read
Yeah.
it, but I've seen people that are really big Black Cat fans, and when she has her own run now, I think it's like issue 2 now. People are like finally happy that like this is the Black Cat that should be Black Cat. Like feels like this character.
Agreed. I mean, but the problem is that like when you're reading like a Marvel series or whatever, it's so self-contained within that story that you're not like, oh, this is really a ripoff of Catwoman.
Let's go with Silver Sable.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, if
they could definitely do, I mean, the way that they're doing these villains and they're taking at least in the Spider-Man movies, they're taking the best parts of these villains and actually building stories with them.
In universe.
And like giving them more than just like telling their plan to the hero. Like you're actually developing with these characters. I think they could easily do a Black Cat.
So I do too. I'm just saying that they have to. I think that she should.
We haven't gotten a good Catwoman in movies anyway since Michelle Pfeiffer.
Well, there's two ways I actually think would be great. Original Black Cat, who was pretty bad, like not evil, but like straight up bad Black Cat to distinguish her from the gray, or straight up good Black Cat, and she's been that plenty too. She's been just a straight up,
just like
street
Catwoman.
level hero.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I think that would be a good cinematic way of distinguishing her. But I was gonna say, just for my pick, I actually think you could do. I know you said no Craven.
Spot.
I would love that, first of all, but no Craven and Chameleon.
Yeah.
So one movie, because they're brothers, they have very different MOs, and I think you could manage that.
Because the Dimitri, right?
Dimitri.
Is Chameleon.
Yeah,
he was the driver for the kids, like throughout Europe and stuff. So that's why I was like, is this a cameo or like an Easter egg type thing? Because they never said his last name. So
I will say, like,
and he had a big gun.
Chameleon's usually pretty like urbane in the comics, very sophisticated, very like almost dandy-like at times. So not that he couldn't play a character like that, but it would be really cool if he did.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go with. I don't want Green Goblin because we've seen him a few times, or like some interpretation of him. We've seen Lizard. Like I can't really think.
Hobgoblin would be cool.
It would, but I would want them to like. How can you have Hobgoblin without a Green Goblin? Or unless it's like he's already dealt with Green Goblin. And then...
Well, they did actually. I always found this weird, but in the animated series, Hobgoblin's the original villain. And then Norman finds that gear and it gets like mixed with this gas.
So if they do it that way, that'd be. I mean, if they wanted to do Hobgoblin, I mean, I'd probably just say Hobgoblin.
You can do a story where it's like Norman's financing that goblin, because that goblin, Hobgoblin's always like more of a.
I mean, but guys, why are we talking about it? Because we already know that the next villain in the movie. The next Spider-Man movie is going to be J. Jonah Jameson.
yeah.
I mean, it's already been confirmed.
Oh, by the way, thank God J.K. Simmons came back for that part.
I know, right? Wasn't it amazing?
It wasn't confirmed until now that he would.
Yeah.
Also, that it's really weird that like the original J. Jonah Jameson is now again him. So it's like, are they connecting these?
Was he in the middle one? Was he J. Jonah Jameson in?
I can't remember. It's been a long time.
Actually,
look that up, listeners, because I think he might be in Sam Raimi. One of them. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, that's a really good point. Like, as soon as you see him on the screen, everybody was like, what?
Okay, well, back to the movie. Is there anything else we didn't like? By the way, I have one thing, but I'm just curious.
You don't know if he died or not. That's
Me not liking 50% of the movie is kind of enough. I touched on that.
By the way, I hate to hurt your hopes. I think that he's dead.
That's so disappointing.
And here's why I think that. I think the movie did everything to say he's dead. The scene where it says like the tech or the AI thing is like, there's no illusions, Peter. I think that's as close as the movie could even come to confirming it. And the only reason
it never said he was dead. He asked if this was real.
Yes.
And then she said there's no illusion. So it's like, he could not be dead.
But this is my point, which is any reason to think he's not dead.
Tricksy person.
Exactly. It's like finding pretext in the fact that he did illusions. And of course that he might not, but I'm like...
We also don't know who sent out that video that said that Spider-Man is Peter Parker, or Peter Parker is Spider-Man.
Well, I thought it was Beck, because that's what he was sending to Ralphie.
Well, I think Ralphie might have taken something.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, like, we're led to believe something happened. We don't know who sent it. So that's a mystery for the next one.
He just got shot and died in front of Peter.
Yeah. I don't want that.
Okay, you're right. To be continued.
So I do want to bring up one thing with this movie, and there's been a debate about it. And I think you can like both, and it's fine. So this Peter isn't motivated by a dead Uncle Ben. He's more motivated by by Iron Man and a dead Tony Stark. So there's this debate where it's like, this isn't good for Spider-Man because Uncle Ben's always been like his...
Uncle Ben is dead, right?
We haven't seen him.
Yeah, we haven't seen him. I think it might be inferred, or maybe he just is not in the picture anymore.
When he talks to Iron Man in Civil War,
or she just was never married because May's not his mom.
That's possible too. But what I think that we're led to believe, like, Spider-Man's already there when Tony talks to Peter on the bed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's what he's seeing, is that Spider-Man already gets it. Mm-hmm. And I think we're led, because he has that line where he's like, when you don't do anything, when you can, then the little people get hurt. It's them all but not saying with great power comes great responsibility or whatever. I think that's meant to convey that the Ben thing had happened.
Right, but it's not explicit.
You already meet Spider-Man in Civil War as Spider-Man,
yes.
Even though he doesn't have the gear.
But
yes,
even when Spider-Man, it's still... Like, he still talks about, like, I'm because of my Uncle Ben and blah, blah, blah. I'm just saying, like, the Uncle
they don't
Ben
say
theme.
it specifically.
And in terms of the Spider-Man motivation, who the fuck cares?
Yeah, well, no, there's just, like, this big thing. It's like, is it good that he's, like, fostered by Tony Stark? Like,
that's fine.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, I think you can like both. It's a criticism of the movie.
I don't, to answer the question directly, like, I don't, as long as the values are still there, as long as the issue is that he still understands that he's always got to... Actually, I think this movie is in touch with that theme, because I think a lot of it is Nick Fury saying, like, look, you have the power to do things about this, and I understand that you would much rather...
have a normal life.
Exactly, but... That's not
too fucking bad.
Exactly. Yeah. Because you have the power, the responsibility, that onus is on you.
You're an Avenger. And Tony was like, he's the guy.
Yeah. So the fact that, it's maybe due to Tony dying as opposed to Ben, but as long as the message is there, then I'm personally
I agree.
cool.
I feel like a person that has that type of criticism, Spider-Man is either their favorite characters and they're not going to budge on a single deviance
because
from
there's
the comics,
hardcore ones,
or they don't like the MCU in general, because the MCU has been breaking comic origins, breaking motivations the whole time.
Yeah, so Vulture is not an old guy in a green suit.
With
like wings.
Yeah, or
not MJ's mom,
a rich industrialist.
Dad.
Hey, don't assume his role as a parent.
No, I mean, but and like I said, to go back, we don't explicitly know Ben didn't die.
Yeah,
it's just not addressed.
That's what I'm saying.
You were even allowed to interpret it as you like. It doesn't go in your way.
I just think it's one of those things where it's like, if it was Batman and like they never mentioned his parents dying,
I
and
still
like,
think it's different.
Well, it is different, but it's just one of those things where it's like, okay, I guess you can like both.
Actually, it's pretty similar, which is that if they never mentioned his parents dying,
or
you just have a story with Batman, we wouldn't be like, well, I guess his parents never died.
Exactly.
We would just be like, well, I guess that they're not showing that. In the same way, Spider-Man is, though young and not on the world stage yet, he's not an Avenger, he's fully formed.
Is an Avenger.
No, when Tony meets him, he's not an Avenger yet, but he is Spider-Man. So we're led to believe somehow he got from A to Spider-Man.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's just like, I think with like the continuous themes of like Tony being involved, and like Tony was the one that was shown.
They're just coming from Tony aunties, and I hate them on principle. So everything they say is wrong.
Also, this is the part where I most converge with Kayla's opinion about, like, we don't need that origin again.
Yeah.
We just don't.
I agree.
Maybe in the future at some point retell it, but like, it wasn't necessary to get us to where we needed to be.
Mm-hmm. And when he showed Tony coming out of that grave, it was terrifying.
I was fine.
And really upset. When I saw that happen in the theater, I'm like, oh no, Kayla.
Yeah, that was super upsetting. I hated it.
Which I think it really implicates you as the audience, because of course that's hard for Peter, but to a lesser extent for us.
You're just like, oh God, he's dead, he's dead.
There's spiders in his face.
I'm reliving my trauma right now.
But in terms of what I didn't like, the one thing that I can point to, and it's really a broader problem with the MCU lately, with this one thing, is Nick Fury kind of sucks in this, and it begins to annoy me where I don't know if there's an emasculating aspect to it, where it's fun to take a character that we're told is a badass and be like, but he is a goofball. But at some point, I'm like, this awesome, like there's a moment where Maria Hill's like, he had no idea. And in my head, I'm like, well, then you should fire him because it's his job to know. And there's been this repeated thing in the last few movies about Fury being kind of a he's very similar to Happy to me, where they're bumbling towards victory.
How I see it, it's Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah.
Being Samuel L. Jackson with the title of Nick Fury. And for me, that's enough. Like, I don't care about that.
I like that.
Well, I don't care about Nick Fury being super involved or being like this Amanda Waller type character just because we've seen him be that way for 11 years now almost. So it's like I've kind of leaned into it and I've kind of not really cared.
Also, it wasn't Nick Fury most of the movie.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good
Spoilers.
point. That's a good point. No, I mean, actually, that does redeem it a bit. But
I was like, wait, he wasn't. No, he was.
True.
Yeah.
Which I also didn't love for that reason, but that's fine. I mean, I didn't like that. Like, oh, so all the shit that Nick Fury did wasn't something he did. Okay, that's fine.
I would love for a Skrull to impersonate me to like go to work.
Oh yeah. Where's my shoes?
Just on vacation in a spaceship.
Yeah,
I'm glad you. Honestly, that makes me feel very differently. I'm glad you reminded me of that because I kind of knew that as a fact, but didn't like think about the implications of it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was starting to get annoyed where it's like I just do some cool shit. That like the moment, what great Nick Fury moment in the thing was like, you got me, and then Maria Hill.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Maria Hill has a history of using bazookas in the comics.
She does.
That was such a small Easter egg, but it's so badass.
Well, and the funny thing is, it's not even Maria Hill.
Yeah.
So,
Well, you're right. But just the image of it. But yeah, very cool.
Yeah, when I saw that, I was like, I feel like I've seen that in a panel before.
Okay, well, I just want to say to that one guy when Talos was revealed at the end of the movie that said, "Hey, is that Thanos?" I don't think he should be allowed to see any of the future MCU movies. He obviously hasn't been paying attention. He doesn't know what Thanos looks like. And it was an adult man. If it was a child, I could have forgiven him. But this is an adult man that looked at that green guy that said, "Is that Thanos?"
I could just see Kayla like furiously looking for the person that said that outside of the movie theater.
Oh yeah, because it came from behind me, and I took all my will not to turn around. And then we stood up. Post-credit scenes was over. We're walking out, and he was still whispering to his friend, "Hey, was that Thanos? That's so cool."
Oh, so he was serious.
Yeah, no, he was.
Oh.
Exactly. That's why I don't think he should be able to see the MCU.
I mean, after
anymore.
like 11 years of these movies and like it being literally the biggest movie in the entire world for the last 6 months.
It doesn't even matter if he hadn't seen Captain Marvel to not know who Talos is, but to not know what Thanos looked like, I'm just done. He should be done.
Yeah, that guy's a turd. That's all I got to say. But I did, just before we get to ratings and stuff, I want to say like the script here, so good. The writing's so good. It's just so economical. Everything came together from a technical end in terms of storytelling. This has great pacing. That it's didn't you, or did you feel like it was slow?
The parts with the field trip, yep.
Okay, but I think you just didn't like those parts, right?
Well, I get what she's saying as far as like there was really good like story moving moments.
Yeah,
like kind of sprinkled throughout like that field trip part, but like there was moments on that field trip part or like when they showed that stuff where it's like this. It's kind of unnecessary. Like, I get maybe you need like a palate cleanser into the next fight or something, but it's like,
I agree, or I agree to disagree on that just because I feel like they definitely were trying to develop the high school. Like, in other words, maybe we didn't like it so much, but they were trying to do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Very heavy-handed.
Yes. But anyway, I love that Peter makes mistakes in this.
Yes.
And he makes some mistakes that people have debated whether they're flagrant or not, like to the degree of absurd. But I actually disagree. I think that there's a way it gets articulated kind of sloppily. So this is the handing off the thing.
Yep.
But here's the thing about that. He doesn't think he's competent. And a person who is a professional manipulator, who presents himself a lot like Tony Stark.
Yeah, which he probably did on purpose.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Because it's really clear that Beck is trying to get Edith. Part of his plan is not just to fool people, but to get Edith. So, given Peter's like state of like feeling like he's maybe not able to live up to this, finds a person who could live up to it perfectly. I think maybe they could have added a little bit more in there to develop that. Yeah, exactly. But the overall decision, I'm like, I could get why a 16-year-old would do that.
Well, to be fair too, this guy Beck, when he first sees him, he helps him defeat this Hydro Man
Yeah.
or this elemental. I think they mix the two.
The fake story is that it's Hydro Man.
Yeah. But he helps him because he even tries to shoot his webs at this thing, which he can shoot his webs at anything, and it doesn't work.
Yeah.
So Peter's at that moment like, I'm fucked with this water monster or whatever. And then Beck helps him. And then he meets Beck with Nick Fury, which Nick Fury's like this big good guy and should know that this guy isn't bad.
Great point. Yeah,
so it's like all of it leading to like, why would Peter think that he's bad? Because that's the entire point of Mysterio.
I don't think... I feel like it does toe the line on a ridiculous decision where you kind of have to suspend disbelief. Like it's definitely, it could, for me, it could go either way. Because obviously working towards that decision is the fact of, he's young, he's 16. He
doesn't want it.
He's obviously grieving. He wants to be a normal kid. He doesn't want it. But on the other side, it's like you also see him being, especially towards the end when he's building the suit, how intelligent he is just on surface level. And also, if he's grieving the loss of a man, it actually one of the closest times in the movie that I was like, wow, I'm feeling something emotional here, was when he was like, I cannot believe I gave the last piece of Tony Stark away to someone else. That I'm just like, coming from a person who's grieved before, I don't think you would give away that item.
But I'm glad that they mentioned that. And I like, maybe it might have been a little ham-handed or like after the fact, but it's like, okay, you guys realize that people are going to say that.
Yeah.
So it wasn't a completely like
it wasn't ignored. But
I mean, I agree.
Well,
like
let's
I would never give away like somebody that was that important to me.
Their last item that they gave
to you.
Yeah.
There's a couple of things I would say. He might have some other mementos that are not attached to nuclear weapons level things.
But I feel like he mentioned that was the last item that Tony Stark gave him. So you can infer that, really.
No. My point is more about the fact that, let's not forget what Edith is. Edith is the most powerful weapon system on the planet at the time.
But he didn't have to use it. Like, he could have just kept it as, like, on my dresser, like, a little memento.
I'm not going to give it to you, person I met twice.
None of us here think it's a good decision that he made. The important thing is it a reasonable enough decision that it's not bad writing that he made.
I think reasonable enough. Yeah, like I don't think it's completely reasonable. Yeah. But it's a movie.
Again,
and
to me, it toes the line. It's almost absurd.
Exactly.
Well, the other thing that's absurd on the other end is he shouldn't have left this to Peter. I love Peter. The idea of saying, look, you are a really good kid and you saved those people, so let me give you a nuclear arsenal, which is what this is not appropriate either.
We're not talking about that absurd decision. We're talking about the absurd decision to give it away.
But it's implicit, is what I'm saying. It's like, in other words, if I call that absurd, I have to call the decisions made that created the situation absurd as well.
And also how fast the drones came down to the planet because they were from space is super absurd because unless they teleported there, that makes no sense. But I mean, we can pick apart that decision or those choices all day. What I'm saying is that we were talking specifically about giving Edith away.
So totally, I'm saying that you
just have to separate that. I feel like.
Well, what I mean is that I could see why a person like him would want to get rid of that responsibility, which is part of this decision, is what I'm saying. So like, let's back up. Should he have given it to Nick Fury?
No.
So he should have kept it, is what you guys are saying.
So that's why Iron Man gave it to Peter.
Yeah.
Because Peter isn't Iron Man. Peter isn't Nick Fury. Peter isn't Thor.
Yes.
Peter is not any of those characters that would use it in a battle, use it for something of their own gain. So that's why he gave it to him. I mean, Peter didn't have to use it. He tried to use it and failed miserably.
I don't compare myself to Spider-Man a lot, but I will say if somebody gives me this technology, I'm like, I don't want this technology.
But to be fair, I did. So when he did use it, and he just tried to use it that way he didn't look bad to MJ.
Yeah.
Like, I think that was the moment where it's like, that's why Iron Man gave it to him. Maybe he didn't think he would send a drone strike on this kid.
It's obviously an accident.
Well, he didn't mean to either.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. But he tried to do it to like impress the girl that he's trying to get. And I'm like, okay, like this is why he wants it, but that's also why he probably made the decision to give it away. Yeah. Because he's like, I tried to use this shit. I can't use this.
And to me, there's also this writing challenge of people make irrational choices and bad choices. So how do you write a bad choice that skirts the line between nobody would make that or it is irrational, but somebody would make that mistake?
I think if Mysterio or Beck was in some of the movies or maybe even the first one, and like he had some established relationship, and not just within the same week. He trusted him as much
It
as
would make
Iron
more
Man.
sense for him to give it to Nick Fury, and Nick Fury to give Nick Fury,
Yeah.
quote to give it to Mysterio.
Yeah.
Than
Yeah.
it would for him to give it to Beck directly.
Yeah, I just
Yeah,
think-
it's like Superman. I would give it to Superman.
Yeah.
And I think that's what they were kind of going for, which is like, he's a hero. Clearly, I should give it to a hero, but yeah.
Yeah.
But the other thing I got to mention, which is I didn't think that we were ever, like, Vulture, when he fights Vulture, we mentioned this before, he kind of gets his butt kicked.
Yeah.
And the one criticism, which is from a story direction, not very important, but that it was there nonetheless, is this Spider-Man really just flips away from shit.
He's like evading a lot of attacks.
Exactly, which is always a Spider-Man thing, but it wasn't until that scene where he fights his way through the drones to get to Beck.
It was so cool.
I was like, that is that.
Like, it shows he can fight.
Yes, and that, which we always kind of saw.
Yeah.
But I was like, this is one of the best scenes I've seen in a Spider-Man movie, and it's to me what made this the best Spider-Man movie.
Yeah, I mean, I just love that they finally connected. Like, he's super smart with this movie, because not only whenever he was making the suit and he's like, okay, let's do this and this, like he knew all the lingo and the language, and like he knew what he was talking about, but also when he had to get up to Beck on the bridge, he made this like he was putting things together, he was engineering things. It's like, okay, he's smart, because it's not clear that he's in a smart school.
Yeah.
No,
It looks like it's pretty normal from like some of the like Flash in there. I'm like,
it's
yeah,
not
he's
like
not smart.
It's not like Miles's
Elite
thing.
school.
Yeah, and it's also them subtly learning from the criticisms. If you remember, people were upset at the lack of the spider sense in what is it?
Peter Tingle.
Oh yeah, the
God.
Peter. Oh my god, that was. I have to say, from a comedy standpoint, that was a bit overused. I was like,
It was overused.
He said it at the
was so
eighth time.
funny.
It was
First
so funny.
time and second time.
Great.
Maybe not the seventh.
Yeah.
I loved all the Tingles.
It was
the
yes.
Peter Tingles.
But what was the
How he used it at the end though to stop Beck with the
That's exactly how he defeated him in the animated series, and I'm like, yay!
Yes, when he just essentially when he closes his eyes, and trusts the spider sense, and actually in this case, I thought it was not an overuse of the spider sense, because you know a lot of times they do that thing where, Peter Tinkle, that where it, like I said, it can they'll go too far where he can tell what's fraudulent checks with the spider. In this case, it was just like being able to dodge.
Well, I also like
things,
this was him developing that
Yeah.
ability, because he wasn't sure what it was, and they even were like, just use your Peter Tingle or whatever, or like your spider sense. And
He's
it's
like,
like,
yeah, sure.
yeah, he's like, I don't know how it works. It just happens.
Yeah.
So, all right. I think we've overtalked this movie. Now we're going to rate it. Should we do it out of spider legs?
We could do that, or web cartridges. I like spider legs. Spider legs not bad.
How many
I
web
knew
cartridges?
hold on, when you said should we do it in spider, I was like, he likes this. Okay, let's go with it.
I give it 7 out of 8 spider legs. Kayla's eyes went real big.
She's ripping the legs off this poor spider.
She's like, it's going to be legless.
Can I do half a leg? I mean, like
Sure, why not?
5.5 to 6 spider legs.
That's not a bad score.
Wait, 6 spider legs?
6 out of 8. That's not bad.
Yeah.
Oh,
5.5 to 6.
Yeah, I mean, I give it an 8.
Damn.
Wow.
Because I cannot. I mean, it is by far my favorite Spider-Man movie now.
Kind of lost me at the very beginning when you were like, "It's the same. It's as good as Into the Spider-Verse," and I'm like, "Stop right there."
I absolutely feel that way. I think that I'm also not one of those people that thinks that like the highest rating should get. It's a useless rating system where your highest thing
Are you
is
calling
only
my spider leg system useless?
No. People, I had professors in college who were like, I don't give anybody an A+. It's like, well, then you don't know what an A+. So just make A the highest fucking score. And so similarly, I'm like, if only 2 movies can get a perfect score, then whatever.
It's your score.
You're goddamn right. It is.
Let the spider live with all its
so
legs.
it
All you
gets
want.
8 because I think everything about this movie is correct. Like I cannot imagine a better one. Yeah.
Okay, Joe. I love it so much. All right, that's it. No recommendations this week.
See the movie.
Oh yeah,
I recommend you see this movie.
Yeah, that's true. I definitely think you should see this movie. It's a last in the phase. Did you just do a?
I did a thwip. It was subtle, but the real listeners using their Peter Tingle will know.
Thanks, guys. Peter Tingle.
Thanks for listening. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter at The Phantom Zone Pod for more podcast updates.